Welcome to this explainer. What if I told you that true leadership mastery actually has nothing to do with being the smartest person in the room? It doesn't. It actually comes from operating in this incredibly intentional space right between your initial gut reaction and your deliberate response. Today, we're diving into a masterclass on how top performers process immense pressure and how you can literally copy and paste their exact frameworks into your own life.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to break down the science of intentional emotional intelligence into 5 quick steps. The emotional intelligence myth, mastering the pause, the intentional EQ framework, passive versus applied EQ, and finally, the daily protocol to keep it all running. Let's get into it.
Section 1. The emotional intelligence myth. We're going to dismantle a massive misconception right out of the gate.
Check out the phrasing on this quote. Most people think emotional intelligence is about what you feel. It's not. It's about what you say when it matters most. What's absolutely crucial here is that EQ isn't some passive, soft trait about having boundless empathy for everyone. Nope. It's a highly dynamic input-output system. Your feelings, like, the frustration in a heated meeting or that anxiety over a massive deadline, that's just raw data. That is the input. Intentionality is the output. It's about choosing your response based on your long-term strategy rather than just caving to a temporary mood.
And honestly, this dynamic is more critical now than ever before. As AI accelerates execution across literally every industry, the technology itself isn't what threatens leaders. The real silent career killer is lazy reactive thinking. It gets completely exposed because precision always beats speed in high-impact moments, and true intentionality forces us to do the deep, critical thinking that AI simply cannot do for us.
Moving right along to Section 2, Mastery in the Pause. This brings us to the core visual and conceptual metaphor of our entire explainer. We call this the gap. I want you to imagine this gap as a literal, physical space in your brain. It's that critical momentary space between a stimulus and your reaction. On one side, you have the trigger, say an incredibly overwhelming inbox or a coworker taking a totally unfair shot at your ideas. On the other side, you have 2 options. Path A, your unconscious knee-jerk reaction, and Path B, your deliberate response. Now, when emotions spike, your brain wants to snap. It just does. But real leadership, that is decided in those first few frantic seconds where you force your brain to pause and go down Path B. True mastery happens right there in this gap.
So how do we practically override that neurological urge to just snap? Well, our sources provide a brilliant 5-step synthesized protocol called the PAUSE method. First, you literally pause and breathe, just to create some physical space. Second, ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Labeling the emotion instantly turns it back into data. Third, uncover the real trigger. Fourth, try to see their side of things. And finally, step 5, engage thoughtfully. This whole structure is designed to stop a temporary emotion from doing permanent damage to your career.
All right, Section 3, the intentional EQ framework. Theory is great and all, but let's look at how this applied intentionality actually operates in the real world during a high-stakes corporate crisis.
Consider this incredibly tense case study from the text. $50 million. A massive $50 million customer has just decided to fire the company. Quality issues are stacking up, trust is completely 100% gone, and there is absolutely zero margin for error here. Now, a reactive leader, they'd panic, start pointing fingers, or just make a bunch of excuses. This scenario is the ultimate test of the gap.
But instead of panicking, we see pure intentional execution. Look at this timeline. On Wednesday, the executive gets pulled into the crisis. Thursday and Friday, instead of reacting emotionally to the stress, they sit down and whiteboard the root causes with the global engineering team. Over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, they build a totally data-driven recovery plan. And by Monday, they fly out to Canada, present the solution, and literally save the account. They deliberately separated all that emotional noise from the actionable data. It's a total game changer.
And we see this exact same principle apply to everyday people management too. Weak leaders tend to treat team conflict like it's a massive threat, but strong leaders, they pause, they step into the gap and ask themselves one fundamental question. What is this disagreement actually revealing?
Because at the end of the day, conflict isn't a crisis. It's just information. Disagreement reveals where we're misaligned. It highlights exactly what needs to be clarified. It uncovers the hidden fear that's driving a teammate's reaction, and it tests our hidden assumptions. The goal here isn't to force everyone to agree. That's just compliance.
The real goal is building a solid process that honors different perspectives so you can make a much more intentional decision. Which brings us to Section 4, passive versus applied EQ. How do we actually take all this internalized, self-aware data and translate it into external execution? Well, it starts right with the vocabulary we choose when the pressure is on. The difference between a boss and a true leader is the exact, deliberate choice of words. Saying something like, "You always do this," is highly reactive, right? It makes things personal and instantly triggers defensiveness. But responding with, "Tell me more about that," or "I trust your judgment," that is a strategic tool. It creates clarity, it builds ownership, and it fosters genuine trust.
Applied EQ also means actively protecting your team from high empathy burnout. Emotionally intelligent leaders systematically budget their team's cognitive energy, and they use this impact versus effort matrix to do it. It's pretty straightforward. High impact, low effort, you absolutely do those first. High impact, high effort, plan them out well. Low impact, low effort, hand those off to your team. And low impact, high effort, literally just cut them entirely. Don't even do them.
Furthermore, applied EQ fundamentally changes how we handle feedback. The text makes a really profound observation here. Most feedback fails before it even starts. Why? Because the delivery is just wrong. If you go into emotional, if you're too vague, or if you wait way too long to say something, the actual message gets completely lost in the friction.
Just think about poor feedback delivery for a second. It's like ambushing someone, totally surprising them, and just dumping a problem squarely on their desk. Not great. Now compare that to checking in first, asking if they're even open to a quick conversation, and then suggesting a clear way forward together. By shifting from problem dumping to suggesting a path forward, you protect the professional relationship while simultaneously improving their performance. It's a win-win.
Okay, final section. Section 5, the daily protocol. We have covered a lot of ground today, but how on earth do we sustain this level of intentionality day in and day out? Because let's be real, operating in the gap takes serious energy. The sources give a pretty stark warning here. The constant pressure and that endless self-doubt coming from a harsh inner dialogue, it will absolutely drain your intentionality if you leave it unchecked. It says right here, your inner dialogue is killing your potential. It only takes 5 seconds to flip the script. If your own mind is a chaotic, reactive place, there is no way you can project clarity and calm to your team. So to combat this fatigue, you have to consciously edit your own operating system. You do this by replacing reactive thoughts with specific, intentional reframes that protect your focus and your energy. Instead of sitting there thinking, "Oh man, I'm drowning in deadlines," shift that to, "I choose my priorities with purpose." Instead of feeling like everyone needs something from me, remind yourself, "I control my availability." And rather than saying, "I'll rest when it's done," reframe it completely. "My rest enables my best work." Guys, these aren't just fluffy affirmations. These are strict mental boundaries.
And the real beauty of all this, you don't need some massive, dramatic life overhaul to restart your leadership style. You really don't. You just need to implement one healthy boundary or honest routine at a time. Maybe that means practicing active listening today. Maybe it's protecting your energy from toxic people, tracking your wins in a dedicated folder to quiet that inner critic, or scheduling your recovery time like it's a completely non-negotiable meeting. Small, deliberate choices compound over time.
So as we wrap up this explainer, we want to leave you with one final provocative question to chew on. Take a hard look at your own workflows, your interactions with your team, and especially your own internal dialogue. Which area of your life needs that reset most right now? Where are you going to choose to apply this intentional pause today? Think about it, find your gap, and take back control of your response. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into intentionality and EQ. Go out there and keep practicing the pause.